CPP roadmap. Back with us again is Sachin Khanna. He's the Director of Product Management for Bosch. He's in charge of all Bosch camera development programs globally. So Sachin's going to talk to us about the CPP roadmap. Dr. Sam is not with him on this one. He's flying solo. Okay? So
Be
Sachin,
nice. Be nice now.
Take it away.
I might still bounce some question towards Sam if they are difficult. Okay. Good. So Rick talked about CPP. How many of you in the room are familiar with what do we mean by CPP? Because I think internally in Bosch language, when we are talking CPP is a very, very known term we say and people understand what we are talking about. Does this room understands what CPP is? I see few nods. Yes, Steve, of course. Okay, but for the benefit of the full group, CPP, what it stands for is a common product platform. Okay, this is our technology base on which we develop different cameras. So basically, we develop a platform which is a combination of a software and a hardware, and it brings a lot of stuff in it. And then once you have this platform, we multiply this into multiple cameras, multiple form factors. That's the advantage for us, that basically, once we make our platform, inside the cameras, inside different form factors, basically you have the same, almost the same electronics, same firmware, everything running. So basically, it's easier for us to scale. It's easier for us to deploy the feature set and new technologies, new capabilities. So that's why the CPP term is so important, and also for you guys here to understand when I'm using the term CPP, what exactly I'm referring to. Good, but we'll talk more about it. What do we have? What are we coming with? Basically, this will give you also kind of a feeling what kind of products that you can expect from us in coming years, because this will give you a kind of a vision into what kind of capabilities we are bringing, what kind of technologies we are capabilities we are developing in our platforms, and this will certainly showing up in the products that we're going to launch next year and year after. So, yeah. Good. Okay. Some of the interesting market developments that I would like to highlight over here. Since morning, we have been talking a lot about AI, a lot about artificial intelligence and the data and the importance of data. We all know right now with technology coming into the cameras, these cameras getting connected, being able to talk to each other, there is a huge potential now that basically the data that you get out of this camera, like this is what we call as the AIoT, so artificial intelligence of things. So where now you can harvest the data which is coming from multiple cameras and then have a much better understanding about what the cameras are looking at, what the microphones are listening to, or what a motion sensor is sensing. All this data that is becoming more and more harvest, it's possible to harvest the data out of it, and camera is one of the very, very data-rich sensor. I mean, Joel showed right now that how much data mining you can do with the metadata that you are getting out of it. So this is a trend which we are also analyzing very closely, building in our future platforms, that we are enabling more and more applications by bringing more capable hardware, more capable firmware in our products that you guys can then further use it to create more applications around this camera. I mean, there are enough market data right now available which says that from now to till like 2025, we expect almost like 7.5 billion devices getting connected on the network, and all these things are going to stream the data. So it really becomes very, very important that in our platform strategy, in our future strategy, we are taking care of these aspects, that we are bringing intelligent platforms, powerful platforms in which new software, new capabilities can run. Yep. Another important trend is, I would say, also towards being trust and the security aspect of devices. Now, more and more devices are getting connected on the network. You also need to be sure that these devices are secured. You're talking to the right devices, or only the authorized people are able to talk to these devices. So this is another very, very important element that we want to build in our platform strategy about the data security and the trust that you can have on the devices, especially when you are connected on the network, that you can trust these devices, or only the trusted partners are allowed to talk to these devices. Tomorrow we have some very good sessions. We will talk more in depth about our cybersecurity strategies and what kind of measures that we have in our camera to make our devices strong and trustable. We'll have more sessions about this tomorrow. Okay, so I already talked about a little bit what our CPP means. So it's our technology platform. It's normally a combination of a software, basically a firmware, which what it is running, and the hardware, what kind of chipsets that we are using in it, through which we bring, of course, with advanced analytics. With every platform that we bring, we make enhancements in the imaging aspect of the camera. So we try to solve new problems. I'll touch upon some of the topics in some of the slides, from the imaging aspects where we are going, and of course the data security. So when we build our platform strategy, we look at three topics. How do we make the hardware more capable to take care of future analytics requirements? How do we take care of the imaging? And then to ensure that our platforms are ready for data security and to handle that these devices can be connected to a network, even to a public network, that we can participate in a secured environment. I already talked about our AI capabilities. So we are building right now. I will talk about two platforms in today. I mean, one is called as Intiox, another one I'll call it CPP 14 because it still doesn't have a commercial marketing name. So I'll just refer it as CPP 14, but that's our own internal name. So Intiox is our platform for open cameras, right? I mean, Joel, and since morning, some of the cameras that we have shown where we are running the AI capabilities, they are all part of our Intiox family, where we run the operating system from Azina. I mean, Andrew talked about his open operating system. So we run an Azina platform on our Intiox camera. So when you see an Intiox camera, those are the cameras which offer the capabilities that you can connect them to the Azina store, download the apps, and then you can have more capabilities on those devices. But other than that, providing the capabilities from the Azina or the apps which are available over there, we also bring our own artificial intelligence and machine learning capabilities on this platform. And this was the portfolio which Joel was talking about. From the video streaming perspective, where we are going right now, our all new cameras are now capable of performing or streaming up to 4K P60. We do have some multi-sensor platform also coming out. You will see that we have some cameras where we can go up to 20 megapixel all real time. So we can stream up to 20 megapixel, 30 frames all at the same time in these cameras. Triple streaming, this was one of the feature that we didn't had in our previous platforms. We were only able to support dual streaming, so which means that at any given point in time, you could just get only 2 independent streams. Now we have increased this capability that we can go up to 3 independent streams. So you can configure one for live viewing, one for recording, and third maybe for your remote connectivity, either through your handheld device or something that's possible. We support H.264.265, which was there, but we continue to do that. Plus, our intelligent bitrate management, we are still investing further into it to make our compression more effective so that you can stream or record more data on your storage devices or stream them on the network. So that's always part of our platform strategy. Data security. So from the data security perspective, we are right now investing quite a bit in our existing platform. We have TPM, we put an encryption chip where you can have certificates and all that stuff. So far, we were able to support up to 2K encryption keys. In the new platform, we are going up to 4K encryption keys. So which really makes that you can have much better data security. You can hold much more stronger certificates inside the device. The thing is that we have dedicated hardware inside the camera to store these chips. We are not just doing a software-based encryption. We really have a dedicated hardware encryption. And right now, we are also planning on applying for some certifications for this kind of data security measures that we are putting. So because so far we were doing just only our internal measurements, our internal certifications, we are also looking at going external now. This topic came up this morning about when you are having an Azina session, that how do you ensure that when a third-party app is running on your camera, how do you ensure that that your camera's integrity is not compromised? You can run these apps in a secured way. So other than the security checks that is done by Azina in putting the apps on their marketplace, the testing they're doing, we also created a special sandbox environment in our camera where these apps are allowed to run. So it's very, very secure that what kind of resources these apps are allowed to access, what they are not access is fully controlled and aligned with also, I think, Even on the Azina store, they sometimes list what kind of resources this app is supposed to use. Right, and this is how we sandbox them and ensure that the critical functionality of the camera is never open to a third-party app. Until and unless you want to have it, because this platform do allow us to co-create apps also with our partners and with the customer. And in that case, if you have an app, you have a solution where you want to access some of these critical resources, that can be open for the co-creation, but then again, it's done in a very, very secured way, signed by Bosch, approved by Azina, then only these kind of resources are available for accessibility for a third-party app. But this is how you see, right? This is the complex world of this new AIoT devices that we are going into, where you have to take care about really high-end security, encryption, certificate management, all these things in our new platforms. So this is common in both Intiox cameras and our CPP 14. It's common over there. The CPP or the Intiox camera, in addition to that, offers us the capability of running third-party apps. Let's talk a little bit more about our AI stuff. So as a standard, all our cameras come with 2 levels of video analytics built into them. One we call as IVA. IVA is our suite of algorithms which is very, very tuned and designed for outdoor perimeter surveillance. So if you are looking for application where you want to have an intrusion detection, you want to see that if somebody is trying to cross your fence or something like that, for those kind of applications, our video analytics, intelligent video analytics or IVA is really, really very robust on that. This is reliable against normal or let's say environmental challenges like rain, snow, wind, camera shaking. This particular device is very, very, or this particular algorithm is very, very robust on those applications. We also have another application which comes as standard on this platform, what we call as a camera trainer. A camera trainer is a piece of software which allows you to train the camera for finding custom objects. So you can train the camera by showing the positive examples, negative examples to camera to detect certain special objects for which, let's say, we don't have an algorithm. Let's say sometimes, somebody wants to detect a shopping cart. Or you have a specific objects in your environment which you want to detect for, right? You can train this camera by yourself by showing them a positive and the negative examples, and the camera would learn with these examples, and then it will become a detector for this, and then you can create an alarm or counter, do whatever with this detectors you want. Then in the AI world, we have on our cameras something what we call as the traffic detectors. Again, we have touched a lot about this. Maybe I don't need to go into too much details, but our Intiox cameras, Joel already talked about, but also our CPP 14 cameras, they all have these detectors built into it. What we have, let's see, I would like to jump to my next slide over here, because this is a very, very interesting thing that to also talk about how do we achieve this kind of robustness and reliability in our detectors, what Joel has shown in the morning, right? So what we do is that our detectors are part of our, what we call over here is the fully integrated IVA framework. So all the features that I talked about, we have our robust object detection for outdoor, for rain, snow, all that stuff. So what we do is we take that video analytics capabilities and our AI detectors, and they both are working in a common framework. So we get basically best of both the world. You have the classification and detections based on the AI algorithms, and robustness against weather conditions and camera shaking and all that stuff. That is something that we get from our IVA algorithms. So I mean, this is also what we have seen, that we have a quite a robust solution when you benchmark against our competition. Another advantage we get over here is from our over here. This is the counts. Sorry. It's about the object detection and object tracking. So in our IVA framework, we have a way of finding the what we call as the optical flow. So basically, we can detect objects smoothly when they are walking across the frames. And because AI normally works from one frame to another frame, and if you have not a proper detection from one frame to another frame, sometimes you can have your missed counts. But when you integrate with our IVA framework, we are able to reliably detect objects, even if in some frames we are not able to find objects in the AI detector. But using our IVA, using our object flow, because there we are able to predict that if I have seen an object in one frame, if it is not available for a few frames, either it is occluded or stuff like that, our algorithms are able to predict that if this object is appearing again after, this has to be the same object. And this really helps us in tough environmental conditions to really have a stable and a continuous object detection, and you are not getting false alarms. We talked about our different subclasses that we have. So we do car, bikes, bus, person, and of course we also have now neural network-based person detection. So it's quite a big portfolio, I would say, of detectors, of algorithms that we have available on all our latest platforms. I have some videos here. So this is, for example, a very, very challenging condition where you have rain in the scene, you have shadows, but we are still able to reliably count and not getting confused by the shadows, because this was a problem, I would say, in the past, that you would see that your video analytics would really get confused with the shadows and especially on the water. But this kind of a problem is totally solved with our AI and IVA working together. And all these are real footage from our cameras. Absolutely, yeah, correct. Then we have for the low light, I think this is a video also Joel referred during his presentation. So, in the low light detection, when sometimes you will see that the objects are not very clearly visible in this part of the scene, but again, because of both IVA and our AI working together, we kindly, very nicely handle all these kind of challenging scenes now. So, we are really coming into the prime time where you can deploy the video analytics, you can try it, and then, it's really usable now, even in the outdoor and the challenging conditions. About the imaging capabilities, the problems that we are solving with our Intiox platform and CPP 14, like I already told you about, we are going into more and more resolution processing that we have. But a very, very interesting new problem that we are trying to solve right now is in the domain of HDR, or the high dynamic range. This has been a challenge in the industry, especially with in the high dynamic range scene. We always found that when you have fast moving objects, you have people running or cars passing by very, very fast, there was always this blurring effect. You always have a motion artifacts when the objects are very, very fast in an HDR, because a standard HDR works in taking a short exposure, long exposure, and then kind of merging them together. In our new platforms, we have solved this problem quite a bit, that we don't see any more motion blur when people are running fast. We have new algorithms and some new sensors that we have integrated in the platform, where it totally eliminates the problem of motion blur in the HDR scenario. So if you are trying to capture the license plate, if you're trying to capture the facial details of person where they might be moving in and out in a fast way, these new platforms are able to solve those problems. Infrared illumination. This is a new thing that we are building in our new cameras now, what we call as a smart infrared illumination. So of course, you can have the distance. So one is that we compensate for the IR depending on the lens opening. So when you are adjusting the field of view of the camera, the IR is adjusting itself. But we are also coming out with some new algorithms where, depending on how exposed your face are, the IR algorithm will be able to adjust the light so that you are not having overexposure, or it's not that the light is focused only on one part of the scene and rest everything is blacked out. So this is also part of our new platforms. And then, of course, the high frame rate I talked about, we are going in a direction, even when we are going in 20 megapixel domain, for example, multi-sensor, all the sensors always record live. Because this is I think, was a very, very important requirement that we got from our customers, where they say that, yeah, it's important to have higher frame rate, but in security applications, it's also very, very important that we are recording them at a high frame rate. Otherwise, we lot of time tends to lose some details. Yeah. So, data security. This This is a very, very important topic for us. I keep bringing it up because as we know that more and more these devices are becoming more and more capable. You can do more and more processing on these devices, are getting connected to the network. It's very important that we are able to ensure that these devices are really very, very secured. Yep. So some of the things that we do by default is that, some simple things like you always have only the secured connections is supported. Password protection is enforced by default. You have to turn on a device and you have to put a password on it. All the unsecured ports are always by default always turned off. You can turn them on, but we keep them off. Yep. Unsecured remote connections are disabled. Our cameras don't dial out from the devices to searching for the remote portals or an external thing unless you configure it to get connected to a cloud. Firmware upgrades are only possible if they are signed by Bosch. So our camera will not accept a firmware, something which is not signed or released by Bosch. So then we also have some login firewalls which prevents against the DDoS kind of attacks. Those kind of infrastructure is built in the camera. We also do now software sealing in the cameras. And also our new platforms now also support secured boot. So that when the cameras are booting up at that time, also when it's doing all its resource check, everything is secured and encrypted, and you cannot misuse the camera during the time it's boot up, because normally that's the time when sometimes your ports are open and correct. Memory, all the memory communication in all the new platforms are totally encrypted. So we really have invested a lot in the new platform to make them really very, very secure and reliable. And we'll have more discussions about this tomorrow. And I already touched upon this. We have a secured element for the TPM level security in all our devices. So this is where all your certificates that you load, your encryption keys, everything is stored in this dedicated piece of hardware that we have. A little bit about TPM. I kind of told you that we support up to 4K keys in these platform, and we also now have a kind of a certification for EAL6+, which basically is, So it basically shows that with the hardware level security that we are building in, these devices are really safe. If you are building if you're putting your own certificates on this, you can have them in a safe way, even connected via a public network. Sandbox environment, again, we touched upon it. So we create an environment for the apps which are running on a camera, either downloaded from the Azina store, or if there are third-party apps or private apps that you want to run on it, we run them in a very, very secure environment so that you're not compromising any of the critical resources of the camera. So we can protect that they are not using the memory which you don't allow them to use or to read from, or they are not accessing the core of the CPU which you don't want all these apps to access. So we can fully sandbox them and ensure that the devices are not compromised with these apps. So a little bit about the apps now. As these devices are getting more and more capable, we also understand that there would be applications, there would be requirements where not as Bosch we can solve all the problems, right? We cannot create detectors for every applications, every solution that is out there. And our new platforms allow us to either use third-party apps or even co-create solutions with our customers. So we can, with customers, with our partners, open certain resources to the cameras where we can develop apps together, and then it can be run on these cameras. There is a defined SDKs available via Azina, which you can use to create your apps, your applications, and some of the base detectors, for example, that we make, like a car detector or a person detector. You can use those detectors, and on top of that, create your own application so that you don't have to go by yourself and do the basic object detection. So those things are available in the camera, and on top of that, then you can build your own applications on that. Right, so we discussed about it. So you can go into Azina, and then you have all the tools to create your own private apps as well. Another important aspect is about the device management. So we also, Joel also talked about it a little bit about that we are also offering now an enterprise solution for remote device management. You know, with this piece of software, this cloud technology, what it allows customers, especially when you have large installs, right, to in a very, very structured way, in an enterprise way, if you have to maintain your devices, which means, you know, if you have 500 cameras and you want to do a firmware upgrade on 500 devices, right, you know, you want to have a structured approach where it's kind of a campaign that, you know, you select which devices to be updated when, which devices should not be updated, all that kind of schemes you can do via our remote portal, because this is a very, very important thing, that as more and more devices are getting enabled there, or they are getting connected on network, you also need to manage them. And remote portal, this provides a very, very nice tool to in a professional way to manage all your devices. Plus that, we also offer now some services in the application for in the cloud. For example, you know, the countings and stuff like that, like what Joel was also mentioning, that, for example, right now we are building solutions in the cloud for ITS applications, where if you are counting objects, you can create dashboards and you know, more insights in the cloud using these devices.
Question?
Please.
Are you planning to offer the remote portal so it can run inside of the network as opposed to being part of the cloud?
We have solutions for that as well, but we will have to discuss on a project basis what kind of services, what kind of infrastructure you want in your on-prem solution. But we have mechanisms to run it on-prem as well. Yeah. And then via remote portal, it's also possible to connect to a third-party app store. The Azina would be one example, but in future, if there are more app stores coming in picture, the connection would be routed via our remote portal. We want to do this just from the data security point of view, because we understand devices better. If you are connected to the cloud, we want to be sure that the connections are made to the legitimate clouds, and there is no risk of device being compromised when they are connecting to another marketplace or another app store. So right now, Azina is connected through our remote portal, but in future we also see there might be more ecosystems coming, and we will integrate our remote portal with those ecosystems as well. So this is the same thing, just to show that, you know, you are in the Bosch environment with the remote portal. We take care that the devices are secured. They are in a secured environment, and, you know, if these devices are connected, so if there are important security patches and all that stuff, we can also proactively inform customers that you have devices where you want to update these things, and then you can have a connection to a third-party ecosystem via our remote portal. So what are the products that will bring these platforms to the market? So I'll not go through the entire roadmap, but some of the selected products I've picked up, which are new form factors, new technologies we are bringing. So I thought I'll give a quick insight on those products. So we have now a full portfolio of our Intiox camera. All of them are available downstairs in our technologies room to demonstrate. So we have our mix, we have our ruggedized PTZ domes, our standard auto domes, we have a flexi dome and a bullet. So all of these cameras in the form factor are now available to basically run an open environment. So these cameras, they all function or allow you to add apps via Azina App Store, or if you have your own applications. Yeah, so these cameras, they come in a 4K resolution. They all support 4K P30. You can have our own Bosch detectors running on this camera, or if there are other applications, you can download and run on these devices. Similarly, for the mix, again, you can have the version which is running Bosch detectors on it, especially if you are in the traffic environment, you have the Bosch detectors running on it, or you can add in third-party capabilities on these cameras. Then I talk about CPP 14. We had this session in the morning where we talked about the cameras with the gunshot detection, audio analytics capabilities. This is part of our CPP 14 product. So this Panoramic family is one of our first products which bring the CPP 14 to the market. So over here, we are running our latest AI engine. So this will run video analytics on it, plus also if for certain applications, you can also have audio analytics running on this camera. We support on this a 6 and a 12 megapixel, again, a dewarped image at 30 FPS. The camera comes with an indoor and outdoor version with and without IR. Yeah. Then our family of our multi-sensors. So this is a 4-head camera. So there are 4 camera heads inside a single housing, right? So total resolution you can get out of this, we have 2 versions, a 12 megapixel and a 20 megapixel, all connected via one single IP address. So when you are integrating in a VMS system, it's basically one IP address. You get 4 streams. All of these cameras have an auto varifocal lens, so you can actually position them in any direction, and you can have a different field of views on these cameras. All of the 4 heads support video analytics, all running at the same time. This is really a big difference from anything else which is out there in the market, because otherwise, normally, when you go in a high resolution, you drop frames or you cannot do video analytics. But in this platform, all the stuff runs at the same time in parallel. We have infrared illuminators integrated in this, so there's a version with and without IR available. We also have microphone in this. Plus, we have a possibility that you have a USB port on this where you can connect a Wi-Fi dongle for let's say, wireless commissioning. So if you are standing on the camera on the pole and you want to figure out where do you want to position the camera, what is the field of view, you can connect the wireless dongle, and using your handheld device, then you can configure it. So our key takeaways now for summarizing our platform. So both the new platforms, Intiox and CPP 13, we have a very, very capable platform with AI engine, dedicated resources to run AI detectors on this. Advanced imaging capabilities, we go into now 4K P30 or high resolution at live frame at full 30 frames per second, plus the new HDR capabilities, which remove the motion blur or the traditional problem of motion blur and HDD and HDR. Robust data security. All our platforms are now capable of handling up to 4K keys. A very, very robust and secure platform. Open platform, Intiox, allows us to run third-party apps or co-create the apps with the partners. We have now also the enterprise-level device management via remote portal, and also some of the capabilities that Azina offers, and then a full portfolio, all form factors, so be it a dome, bullets, multi-sensor, panoramic. We now cater all these technologies in all the form factors. With that, I would be open for questions or anything that I can answer, please. Microphone.
On that multi-head, are you able to record the streams at different frame rates?
Yes, you can. Yes, please.
Yes, and on the video and or the metadata stream, do you have the capabilities of doing like a broadcast mode, or
what is the application?
Well, the application would be distributed computing,
Mm-hmm.
or just moving a lot of data to nodes like arterial local network.
I mean, that would be a capability, I would say, that normally broadcast you would do from the switch. The camera would not do a broadcast by itself.
Okay. Well, I didn't know how far back. So that's just
Yeah.
configurable.
Yeah, correct.
And I have quite a few. Have you looked into as these big streams of video and connected vehicle data of using quantum computers? Do you have any kind of efforts internally?
Of course, in the research world, yes, quantum computing is a topic people are but not in the product.
Yeah.
No, not as a product yet. I think we need some more time.
Well, not really. Just keep doing it. And then is it the automated AI that adjusts for lighting, shadows, and reflections, glare, things like that? Is that Is that sort of, if you're getting the, not that data stream, but you're getting the raw video stream, is that, those corrections available as part of the data stream to the end user, if the developer or whatever?
Yes, I mean, because if you are using our detectors, so all that stuff is already integrated on those detectors. You don't have to configure anything by itself. So the detectors already come with the clean data.
Okay, well, I'm just thinking of if we want to then correlate it to, say, weather data, you know, to see what kind of, you know, effect, you know, it has on it, and if it's correlated to if your automatic adjustment takes care of most of the visibility related
Correct.
issues.
Correct.
And so that's
Correct.
the one thing I can think of.
Yeah.
And then does your, oh, I just asked the same question. And then, is there, do you use this, your cameras use a standard BIOS and or operating system when you mentioned about security? Are you sitting on top of something that's standard, or is everything proprietary?
So basically, Azina is based on Android. So that's based on Android, and then our new operating system that's based on Linux. So we run two streams of operating systems.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Hey, you always get your best image from a flat piece of glass. So have you ever thought about doing a SKU of turret cameras for just indoor? So you always, you know, a flat piece of glass as opposed to a dome?
We have looked into it, but sometimes what we have got feedback also from the customers that those flat cameras are a little bit seems as obtrusive, right? You know, intrusive to people and the privacy. So, I mean, although I agree that technically that is the right approach, and in certain part of the world it is also popular, but I see from the western part of the world that people still prefer dome because they blend in the environment and they are not so obtrusive. But for the outdoor applications, we go in that direction with the bullets, yeah. But on indoor, we haven't seen too much demand coming from the market to have that kind of a product. So, thanks a lot.
Thank you.
One question. So in your IR, are you scanning it? You said you can illuminate different sections. So it's a scanner that you can adjust the intensity, or?
No, it's basically, you can manually also adjust it, but normally, you know, we don't expect that customers are first adjusting their field of view and then they go and adjust the lighting. We kind of build a logic behind them that when you are adjusting your field of view, the light also automatically gets adjusted so that it's filling up the entire scene. You don't have to do it twice.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much.